Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Have you ever tried painting a white building in sunlight? It seems like it should be simple, but if you've tried it, you know that things can get complicated really quickly. In this video, we're going to examine some common pitfalls and ways to remedy the issues that come up, and we'll see an example of a painting get created. So let's take a look. To start with, let's have two concepts in mind to make our painting. The first is simply lines and boxes with no perspective needed to make the drawing of the house painting. Look at how crude my boxes are, and I make an arrow type shape for the doorway. These let me establish where things are going to be placed on my panel and help me get started with the raking light that is going to be the shadow. I don't get caught up in some of the lacy detail, and I keep the shadow into a group shape, meaning it's just simplified and I can smudge it out to try how it looks. As the painting progresses, I want to also keep in mind my second main point, which is adhere to strong value groups of dark, medium, and light. My shadow color is going in with a mix of gray, which is my blue, and my transparent oxide with a little bit of white. And I keep the value of the shadow color the same through the whole project. However, I can start adding either a little bit more blue or a little bit more red, but I will maintain the same value. A big pitfall is this dark shadow cast by the photo. So I have brought up the whole shadow to be lighter and a bit brighter in value. If I need to, I darken some of the shapes at the bottom of the painting and the doorway as well. The objective at this point is to keep the shapes really chunky and not worry too much about the fine detail. I am going to put in just a bit of indication for the window trim. This is mostly just to continue to refine the drawing. I'm going to change some of this later. And I do indicate some of the white. You can see the strong light, medium, dark patterns working now. Things are off to a good start. So before I do the details and the final moves on the painting, I want to double check my warm and cool shadows by looking at them in real life walking around my neighborhood. I have the painting in the studio and I'm going to work on it a little more, but I really wanted to go outside in the neighborhood and show you some warm and cool shadows happening on location. The human eye is the best way to see these warm and cool shadows, and once you start really looking and seeing them, they kind of show up everywhere, so that's great. The building behind me is pretty interesting. You can see that lower floor has that warm shadow under the eaves, and then the tree is casting a cooler shadow, and it's pretty cool to zoom in and see the junction of one shadow to the next. It really helps to see this in person. My video caught some of it, but the human eye, again, will see a lot more of that. Here's a great example of warm and cool shadows. Now we're going to zoom in to actually see a little bit more under the eaves and look at what metering can do. So now I'm pushing on my camera and pumping up the exposure, and now we can see further into the shadows. This would be an example of what we see with sunglasses on, or a poor photo where the shadows are just way too dark. It's kind of a fun brain twist if you have a white cloud to see which is the whiter white. You'll never be bored again once you see warm and cool shadows in real life. Now that we know more about warm and cool shadows from being outside, we could scrape down and work on this painting to finish the project. I scrape down lightly with the knife to kind of reactivate and unify the surface. This painting was partially dry, and in the second sitting, I want to establish some of the detail and refine some of the edges. I do think it's critical to understand warm and cool shadows, and I have another video on painting gray and mixing gray, and you might want to check that out on my YouTube channel. And I also have a video that goes into a lot of detail about understanding warm and cool shadows and the influence of blue and reflected light and how color bounce happens. So you could check out both of those. This painting demo that you're watching was done for my online class, And if you'd like to join me for a session where you could paint with me live and see what your classmates are doing, that could be fun. And there's a link in the space below to check that out. Don't overwork the painting. And what does that mean? Students describe this as paintings going gray or mushy middle and everything looks muddled or there's no feeling of sunlight. This happens when the value structure of 1, 2, 3, light, medium, dark, has been crossed. So at every stage of my painting, I have maintained the structure of the light collection and the shadow collection, plus keeping all of the windows very dark. So I think it's a great lesson in how to keep everything simplified. So is there room to bend the rules? What about all of these details that we see, the flower baskets and the clapboards? Well, the good news is once you have the simple shapes and the basic block design, plus that really tight value structure I keep talking about with light, medium, dark, then the wonderful thing is you can feel free to start bending the rules. I like to do things like add or subtract windows. By now you might have realized that the shutters that are on the top windows actually do not exist. They have been invented. And I did see shutters on another part of the house, but I decided to move them here even though they don't exist. This is a really fun way to work, and once you learn these basic rules of the value 1, 2, 3, you can start to add different things. The shapes that I've added, the shutters and moving the window, are just boxes that I've moved. So that would be design and having a bit of fun within the parameters of the painting that are actually really straightforward and pretty easy to do. Notice also what I haven't done in this painting, which is there's never been a ruler and pretty much there's no straight line. So you might look at that as creative liberty, or you could look at that as breaking some rules, because when we think of buildings, usually there's a straight line involved. I've always found that I like to have irregular lines, and I like the power of a dashed line more than I like the power of a straight line. So how do I know when the painting is done? I look for elements that are jumping out and I try to fix those edges or adjust the colors. It could be adding more detail, but it could also be simplifying. Coming up next is a shift in the scene, because I actually worked on this painting for a third session and I wanted to just make sure that there was some nuance in the white sunlit area of the building. So I cleaned up some of the detailed portions of the outlines of the clapboards and the shape of some of the windows. And then I added shifts of warm and cool within the creamy sunlight areas. Here's a close-up that shows the warm and cool shift within the light area and also within the shadows. This, I feel, brought the whole painting together a bit more, because there wasn't just one whitest white, and I had within the sunlit area some fluctuation of grays. Well, demo started out very simple with our 1, 2, 3 values. Let's go back to that for a minute and see how the final painting looks just in black and white. And then we realized that there is a lot of creative freedom by going beyond this really simple structure into individual creativity. Within the type value groups, you can learn to develop your skills seeing warm and cool outside in person and playfully with paint. Creativity is not marks or materials. Beginners are usually very focused on materials. It's finding the freedom with the dabs and the expressive nature of paint within a tighter structure. So always remember the light, medium, dark grouping, and I hope you enjoyed watching this demo come together of a white house. Thanks for being here. Drop a comment in the space below if you have things that you've painted in white and any tips to share with viewers. I hope these tips have been helpful. Do like and subscribe, it helps my channel grow. Thanks a lot for being here, and until next time, happy painting.